Hello everyone, this is Satish Kumar, lecturer in Polytechnic, Masap Tank, Hyderabad. Welcome to my class. In the previous class, we started analog communication subject. This analog communication subject is in third semester of DECE. In that, we started first chapter, basics of communication system and noise. Just I'll revise the topics covered in the last class. The basic elements of communication system which we discussed in the last class with a block diagram. The basic elements of basic block diagram of communication system are information source, transmitter, channel, receiver and destination. You can look at this diagram. Information source generate the information, and finally a transducer will convert the physical signal into electrical signal, and that is given to transmitter, and transmitter will do amplification as well as modulation, and which is given to channel. Channel may be wireline and wireless, and it is received to the receiver, and receiver is also same as transmitter but in opposite action. It recovers the messages after receiving the signal from the channel, and it implies demodulation process, and it also does amplification. These transmitters and receivers are electronic devices. Receiver also contains amplifier, not only demodulation circuit, it also contains amplifier. Destination is also the final receiver, the final person who receives a signal with a transducer. The transducer converts back electrical signal into physical signal, and there is one more component called noise which interferes the signal in the channel. And coming to examples of communication system: telephone systems, mobile communication systems, and after that we covered frequency spectrum. In frequency spectrum is the range of many frequency bands with their applications and their frequency ranges. There are many frequency bands starting from ELF to EHF band, where ELF stands for extremely low frequency and EHF stands for extremely high frequency, and each band has got separate application, and each band differs with their ranges. Every band will have starting frequency and ending frequency. Normally each band is multiplied by a number called 30. When ELF starts from 30 Hz to 300 Hz, voice frequency starts from 300 Hz to 3000 Hz. Similarly, very low frequency starts from 3 kHz to 30 kHz. So those are the bands, frequency bands. After that, for every band has got a separate application. So normally you should remember these important bands. Every band is very important. Out of all these bands, this medium frequency band is used for AM radio broadcasting. There is normal radio, whereas VHF is used for VHF band, that is 300 to 3000 megahertz is used for FM radio broadcasting, and also it is also used for television broadcasting. These are the two bands which are very important for radio communication, normal radio voice broadcasting, medium frequency band and VHF band. And coming to your television communication, VHF and UHF are important. These VHF and UHF bands are important. And your radar satellite communication come under super high frequency band. Next, modulation. You know, modulation is a very important process which is compulsory for wireless communication, not only wireless and as well as wireline also. Basically, modulation is meant for wireless communication. So without modulation we may encounter many problems. Hence modulation is compulsory. Modulation is a process of changing one of the parameter of high frequency signal in accordance with the instantaneous amplitude variations of the modulating signal. Because for modulation there are two things, two important input signals are given to a modulator. One is input signal, that is your message signal, and a carrier signal. Carrier signal carries the message signal in such a way that its properties are varied. The carrier signal properties are varied, so that the signal will be, the message signal will be transmitted from source to destination. Here always carrier undergoes many changes. Carrier signal undergoes many changes. Every signal has got three properties: amplitude, frequency and phase. So when you change amplitude of the carrier, that becomes amplitude modulation. When you change frequency of the carrier, that becomes frequency modulation. When you change phase of the carrier, that becomes phase modulation. And why we go for modulation? Because modulation generally it is employed in wireless communication. For wireless communication, antenna is compulsory. So when you want to design antenna, its size is very important. The size of the antenna depends on wavelength. Wavelength is nothing but, wavelength is one of the parameter of signal which is related to frequency. When frequency is very high, wavelength is less. So there is a relation between frequency and wavelength. Frequency is equal to C by lambda. So when frequency is very high, lambda is very less. Right? So both are inversely proportional. So that is about frequency, and this one here. Wait for a minute. So this is a need of reasons for modulation communication system, or need of modulation communication system. For wireless communication, the height of the antenna is crucial. If the height of the antenna is smaller, you can design antenna and you can install the antenna. If the height of the antenna is larger, it is very difficult. So without modulation, the antenna heights are very high. With modulation, the antenna heights becomes smaller. Simply modulation converts a low frequency signal into high frequency signal. It also increases the range of communication. It also avoids mixing of signals. It also allows multiplexing. So range of communication means distance at which the signal can be received. The distance of the signal can be received by the signal depends on its frequency. When frequency of the signal is high, its energy is very high and it can be traveled or it can travel for longer distance. When you employ modulation, the frequency is increased. Hence, the signals can be transmitted to a longer distance. Mixing of signal by employing different carriers for different messages, the mixing of signal can be avoided. Multiplexing, time division and frequency division multiplexing is also possible with the help of modulation. Bandwidth can also be increased or decreased by using modulation. Quality of the signal can also be increased by using PCM and some other modulation techniques. And after that we discussed continuous wave modulations. There are different types of continuous wave modulation techniques. Basically modulation are two types. One is continuous wave and pulse modulation. In continuous wave modulation, amplitude and angle modulation. In angle modulation, frequency modulation and phase modulation are there. So our topic is this continuous wave modulation. In continuous wave modulation, there are three types of modulation: AM, FM, PM. So we have visited the waveforms of AM signal. In AM signal, the carrier amplitude is varied. So this is your message signal, this is your carrier signal, and this is AM signal. So in AM or in amplitude modulation, the amplitude of the carrier is varied. Initially the amplitude is constant. So when you do modulation with the help of modulation technique, amplitude modulation technique, the amplitude of the carrier is varied in accordance with the message signal. If message signal is positive or slowly increasing, the amplitude of the carrier is also increased. When it is decreasing, the amplitude of the carrier is also decreased, and when it is increasing negatively, it is also increased. So in that way, the amplitude of the carrier is varied such that it produces an AM signal. In AM signal, the message lies on the envelope of the signal. Where it available? Envelope. This is envelope. This is called envelope or peaks. When you look at this envelope of the AM signal and message signal, both are same. When there is no message, the amplitude of the carrier is maintained constant. Similarly, in frequency modulation, when message is 0, the carrier frequency is not varied, it is maintained constant. When message is positive, the carrier frequency is increased. Here there is carrier frequency is increased. When message is negative, the carrier frequency is decreased. Similarly, when message is increasing or goes to positive cycles, the carrier frequency is increased. So finally, the message lies in the forms of frequency variations in FM. So by seeing FM signal, you can understand that if at all, if there is a high frequency in the FM signal, that indicates there is a positive message. If it is low frequency in the FM signal, that indicates negative message. When there is a constant frequency without any change, that indicates the message is 0. Right, that is about FM. Similarly, PM, phase modulation. So in phase modulation, which is similar to FM, but here when there is a 0 message, the phase of the carrier is not varied. When there is a positive message, the phases are varied, like by increasing phase angle, because phase angle starts from 0 degrees to 360 degrees. Depending upon the message value, the phases are varied. Here phases are varied. The phases is increased. Here phases are decreased. Here it is decreased. So that is why the phase of the carrier is varied according to the message signal amplitude or information signal. So we discussed carrier signal, message signal, as well as modulated signal. Baseband signal, message signal, information, intelligence, these are different other names for modulating signal. The basic signal which contains information or original signal is called modulating signal, which contains intelligence or original information, that is why it is called intelligence, which carries information, hence it is also called as information, which contains message, hence it is called message signal, and which is having low frequency, hence it is called baseband signal, which is going to be modulated, hence it is called modulating signal. So these are the different names for baseband signal. Examples for baseband signals are your voice, speech, voice or speech, text, pictures. These are examples for message signals. Generally, message signals are low frequencies. Similarly, carrier frequencies. Carrier frequency is one which is having very, very high value of frequency. Whatever the frequencies available in the frequency bands that we discuss in the frequency spectrum, those are called carrier signals. So when you want to employ modulation with VLF band, that VLF band frequencies are working like carrier signals. When you want to employ modulation with the help of HF band, that is high frequency band, 3 to 30 MHz, those 3 to 30 MHz are nothing but your carrier signals. You should remember, carrier is a high frequency signal. Next, modulated signal. Modulated signal is one which is having both information as well as carrier. The information may lie in the form of amplitude variations or frequency variations or phase variations. Right, that is about your modulated signal. Next, bandwidth. What is bandwidth? So there are different names for bandwidth. There are different definitions for bandwidth. Bandwidth is a portion of the electromagnetic spectrum occupied by a modulated signal is known as baseband bandwidth. Actually, bandwidths are two types: baseband bandwidth and channel bandwidth. Baseband bandwidth and channel bandwidth. Baseband bandwidth is nothing but the portion of the electromagnetic spectrum occupied by the modulated signal is known as baseband bandwidth, or simply the bandwidth of message signal is called as baseband bandwidth. So the formula for general definition of bandwidth is highest frequency of the signal and lowest frequency of the signal. Their difference is called bandwidth. There is a signal. The signal is containing many frequencies. Let us suppose there is a song. Song is containing speech or voice, background music, female voice, male voice. There are different musical instrument sounds. Each sound is having a different frequency. So what is the highest frequency available in the song? That is called FH. And what is the frequency available in the lowest frequency in the this one called FL. If you calculate those difference, that is called the bandwidth of those particular song or message signal. Right. Next, channel bandwidth. Channel bandwidth is the range of frequencies required to transmit the desired information is called channel bandwidth, which is also called as pass band bandwidth. Simply, channel bandwidth is a bandwidth of modulated signal. The bandwidth of modulated signal is known as channel bandwidth. So the formula for channel bandwidth is highest frequency minus lowest frequency. Whereas the baseband bandwidth FH minus FL, where FH becomes 0 because always low frequency the lowest frequency is 0. That is why you can take it as FL as 0. When you substitute the formula FH minus FL, that becomes FH minus 0, that becomes FH. Hence baseband bandwidth is FH. These are two bandwidths, baseband bandwidth and channel bandwidth. Bandwidth you can compare with the size of the road in the transportation. When the size of the road is larger, many vehicles can travel. When the size of the road is smaller, only less number of vehicles can travel. You can understand in that way. Next, relation between channel bandwidth and transmission time. Before understanding relation, first you should know what is information capacity I. The amount of information that can be transmitted over a channel is known as information capacity. What is the amount of information that can be transmitted over a channel is known as information capacity, which is indicated by I. According to Hartley law, the information capacity is directly proportional to channel bandwidth as well as transmission time. Hence, I is directly proportional to KBT, where I is the information capacity, B is the bandwidth, and T is the time. So I is directly proportional to bandwidth as well as transmission time, where B is the bandwidth, T is the time. Okay. Transmission time is the amount of time taken by the signal to reach the receiver from the transmitter. Bandwidth is the range of frequencies that contain information. It is called bandwidth. The unit for bandwidth is hertz. The unit for transmission time is seconds. Right. So when you want to remove proportionality constant, you need a constant, that is K. I is equal to KBT, where K is a constant. Bandwidth is measured in hertz, transmission time is measured in seconds. So this is the relation between information capacity and bandwidth and transmission time. First, suppose if there is a constant information, that you want to send from transmitter to receiver. Let us suppose there is a file. The file capacity is 10 MB. You want to send that file of 10 MB from the transmitter to receiver. When you want to send the 10 MB file to the receiver from the transmitter with short amount of time, you require more bandwidth. That means if the bandwidth is larger, the transmission time becomes smaller. Similarly, when you want to send the same 10 MB file from the transmitter to receiver with less bandwidth, it consumes more time. Hence, bandwidth is inversely proportional to transmission time. So you should remember, bandwidth and transmission time both are inversely proportional. Next, there is a topic called distortion. Because when you send signal or when you have a communication, there is a problem of noise as well as distortion. Noise is an unwanted signal, whereas distortion arises within the transmission. So what do you mean by distortion? Distortion means, in a simple word, when the shape of the signal of the transmitted signal is not same as the received signal, then there is a distortion. When you send a sine wave of like this, and if you receive same sine wave at the receiver, then there is no distortion. Whereas when you send a sine wave at the transmitter side and when you receive square wave at the receiver side, then this is called a distorted signal. Right? So these are different types of signals. So there are different types of signals: sinusoidal signal, non-sinusoidal signal. Sinusoidal signals are nothing but sine wave, cos wave. Okay, these are called sinusoidal waves. And non-sinusoidal signal are nothing but square wave, rectangular wave, pulses. These are called non-sinusoidal signals. Okay. And there is one more signal, triangular signal is also non-sinusoidal signal. These are also non-sinusoidal signals. Okay. So that is about distortion. So what do you mean by distortion? The meaning of distortion is the signal is said to be distorted at the receiver when there is a change in the shape of the signal, or when the output signal is not exactly replica of the input signal within a communication system. When in that case the signal is said to be distorted. Practically, every practical receiver cannot produce exact signal, hence there will be always distortion. So that is why you need to overcome the distortion. So in other words, the changes in the baseband signal is known as distortion. The changes in the baseband signal in the receiver is known as distortion. There are different types of distortions. So linear distortion, there are two types of distortions, linear and non-linear distortion. In linear, amplitude distortion and phase distortion. In non-linear, intermodulation distortion and crosstalk. So amplitude distortion is one when the amplitudes of the signals are varied irregularly, then the received signal is having amplitude distortion. Whereas the phases of the received signal are varied irregularly at the receiver, then there is a phase distortion. So generally phase means delay. The signals are received not at the same instance of time at the receiver, then the signal undergoes phase distortion. When the signal's amplitudes are not increased in a uniform manner, then the signal undergoes amplitude distortion. For suppose there are three frequencies in a signal. Each signal is amplified with a constant value, then there is no amplitude distortion. Whereas the first two frequencies are amplified by some gain or some amplification, some value, whereas the third signal is amplified by some other value, then there is an amplitude distortion. Similarly, in phase distortion, if at all if a signal is having three frequencies, F1 and F2 are received at one particular instant of time, whereas F3 is received with more delay, then the signal is having phase distortion. And coming to your phase distortion is also called as delay distortion. Non-linear distortion. Non-linear distortion is one which, when the relationship between input and output of a system is non-linear, that is called non-linear system. When the signal passes through the non-linear system, that undergoes non-linear distortion. So non-linear distortion. So there are two types of distortions in non-linear distortion: intermodulation distortion and crosstalk. Intermodulation distortion results when two different frequencies are simultaneously passed through an amplifier. When two signals are sent through an amplifier at the same time, then the signals undergoes intermodulation distortion. For example, 100 and 150 edges are sent through an amplifier, then that results intermodulation distortion. So when two signals are sent through an amplifier, the amplifier takes those two signals as one is input, other one is carrier, and the amplifier will do amplification, not only amplification but also modulation. Hence that results some sort of modulation which we don't want actually in an amplifier. Hence that results in intermodulation distortion. Crosstalk is the other category of nonlinear distortion. This generally arises in telephone communication. The disturbance created in a communication channel by the signals in other communication channels which are nearer to the main communication channel is known as crosstalk. In telephone communication, there is a cable which comprises many wires. One wire is connected to one customer's house and other wire is connected to other customer's house, but they are very much nearer in a single cable under the ground. Because of some physical or mechanical problems or insulation problems or induction effect, the signals propagating or the signals carried by one wire may be induced in the other wire, that results crosstalk. These also because of nonlinear characteristics of system. And how to overcome distortion? What are the measures you require distortionless transmission? There are two techniques you can employ for reduction of distortion in a system. For non-linear distortion there is a technique, for linear distortion there is other technique. Linear distortions can be minimized by using equalizers. Equalizer is a circuit which comprises resistors. Okay. Whereas non-linear distortion can be minimized by using compounding. There is a word called compounding. Compounding is nothing but compressing and expansion of the signal from input to output of a system. So these are the two techniques. One is equalizers, which are used to overcome linear distortion. Compounding is a process which is used to overcome non-linear distortion. Compounding is the combined process of compressing and expansion of a signal. So next, representations of signal. In general, a signal can be represented in two ways. One is time domain representation, the other one is frequency domain representation. What do you mean by time domain representation? In time domain representation, the signal is represented in time domain, that is, the x-axis contains time, whereas y-axis contains strength or value or amplitude as well as power or gain. The signals which are drawn till now are called time domain signals. In x-axis time is taken, whereas in y-axis amplitude is taken, right? So this is a voice signal and this is a voice signal and this is a square wave. can remember, on x-axis what should be there? Time. So signal can be represented in two ways. One is time domain, other one is frequency domain. In time domain representation, time is taken on x-axis. To represent time domain signal, CRO is required. What do you mean by CRO? Cathode ray oscilloscope, which shows the signal shape in a display device having time on x-axis. The other and the advantage of time domain representation is people can understand easily what is its value, what is the phase, what is the amplitude, what is the amplitude here, and what is the time period. You can easily understand what is its basic parameters: frequency, phase, and as well as time period, amplitude. The other representation is frequency domain representation. Frequency domain representation. In frequency domain representation of a signal, frequency is taken on x-axis, whereas amplitudes are taken on y-axis. This is one of the representation of a signal, AM signal. So after modulation of message and carrier in an amplitude modulator, the resultant signal is AM signal. For AM signal, the AM signal is contains three frequencies. One is carrier, USB, and LSB. Okay. Here you cannot understand its time period, you cannot understand what is the amount of signal it is available. You can only understand what is the frequency. But the advantage of frequency domain representation is you can easily estimate what is its bandwidth. The amount of bandwidth can be easily calculated by taking the help of frequency domain representation, right? So the frequency domain signal can be displayed by using spectrum analyzer. There is a device called spectrum analyzer. Spectrum analyzer shows what is the shape of the frequency domain representation of a signal. The advantage we get is bandwidth can be easily calculated, but normal people cannot understand what is its amplitude and what is the time period, what is its phase. Those values cannot be understood. That is about time domain and frequency domain representation. Next topic in our first chapter is noise. So till now we discussed the basic communication system or basic parameters or basic things of communication system, that is elements of communication system, and what is the function of transmitter, receiver, and channel. And after that we discuss what is the modulation and what is the need of modulation, what do you mean by distortion, how to overcome distortion. Next, different types of representation of a signal, time and frequency domain. And initially we discussed frequency spectrum and their bands, their applications. And in modulation we also discussed what is AM wave, what is FM wave, and what is PM wave. AM, FM, PM come under continuous wave modulation, and we have drawn the waveforms also, we have seen. Okay, that is half of the first chapter. The next is noise. So when you look at the diagram of basic block diagram of communication system, there is a term called noise, which always interferes channel where the signal is propagated or channel is carrying the signal. When the channel is carrying the signal, there may be many chances to be interfered by the noise. Noise can be easily added in the channel compared to other block diagrams in a communication system. So when transmitter is sending the signal from transmitter to receiver, there is a chance of addition of noise in addition to your original signal. So that is noise. What do you mean by noise? Noise means noise is an unwanted signal. Already we discussed. Noise means unwanted signal. In any communication, noise is one of the important factors. Any unwanted electrical signal which interferes with proper reception and reproduction of desired signal is known as noise. Simply any unwanted electrical signal which can be easily added with the original or modulated signal or main signal is called noise. One important property of noise is the noise is very high at high frequencies compared to low frequencies, and noise is random. Noise is random. You cannot expect its value, its availability time, its phase, its gain, you cannot expect. That is called noise. And also noise contains almost all the frequencies, not only low frequency, it contains all the frequencies. Okay. The common examples for noise experienced in real life is hiss experienced in radio receiver and snow observed in television receiver. So there is a hiss like sound in the radio while you listen songs or news in the radios, and there is a snow, some white dots will come in the screen of the television receiver. That is also because of noise. Noise can be originated in the channel or outside of the channel also. Okay. So when the noise is generated within the channel, that is called external noise. When the noise is generated inside the communication system, that is within transmitter or receiver, that is called internal noise. So from this, noise can be arised from two places, from the channel or outside of the channel. The channel, if noise is added, that is called external noise. When the noise is added in the transmitter or information source or receiver or destination, that is called external noise. So when you look at this block diagram of communication system, when the noise is available or generated inside the channel, that is called external noise. When the noise is generated either transmitter or receiver, that is called internal noise. Okay. So from this, noise can be categorized in two ways, internal noise and external noise. So what is the meaning of internal noise? The noise generated inside the communication system is called internal noise. When the noise is generated outside of the communication system, that is called external noise. And what is the effect of noise? Noise always limits the range of communication. It reduces the transmitted power. So when there is no noise, the signal can be received for longer distances. When there is a noise, the signal cannot be received for longer distances. That means it reduces the range of communication. It also affects sensitivity. The receiver parameters can be varied by addition of noise. Sometimes noise forces the reduction in the bandwidth of the system also. Bandwidth also can be varied. Bandwidth also varied by noise. So without involvement of the operator or engineer, noise can vary bandwidth, range of communication, sensitivity. It produces hiss in the loudspeaker, that is in radio receivers. It produces snow or colored snow in the picture or television receiver. In pulse communication, noise may convert 1 to 0, 0 to 1. So there is a communication called pulse and digital communication, where there are only two types of variations, either 0 or 1. Every signal can be represented zeros and ones, that is called digital signal. 0 indicates some voltage, 1 indicates some voltage. So if 0 is replaced by 1 by noise, that is a false communication, right? That is the effect of noise. So always noise limits the range of communication. It changes sensitivity. It limits bandwidth. It changes ones to zeros in digital communication, produces hiss in the radio communication, produces snow in the television communication. So basically there are two types of noise, internal noise and external noise. The noise which results from the sources outside the communication system is known as external noise. The noise generated by the active and passive components such as transistors, resistors, electronic tubes, and solid state devices within the communication system is known as internal noise. Simply, when the noise is generated outside of the communication system or within the channel, that is called external noise. When the noise is resulted from the communication system component, that is your information source or transmitter, receiver or destination, which contains electronic devices, then that is called internal noise. Internal noise. So with this I will stop. Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, in continuation with the video of today, now I am going to explain some more topics of basics of communication and noise, which is the first chapter in analog communication for Polytechnic DECE third semester. In today's class we discussed about relation between bandwidths, that is baseband bandwidth and channel bandwidth, and after that their relation and distortions, how to overcome distortion, and different types of noises. Next, in this class there are two types of noise, external noise and internal noise. External noise is a noise which is generated outside of the communication system, whereas internal noise is a noise which is generated inside the communication system. The external noise is produced by external parameters, external devices like your channel, atmosphere, and natural disasters like thunderstorms, tufans. Whereas internal noise is produced by active devices like transistors, amplifiers, transmitters, receivers. So the classification of noise is, basically there are two types of noise, external and internal noise. In external noise, it is classified again man-made noise and natural noise. In natural noise, there are two more types. One is atmospheric noise and extraterrestrial noise. In extraterrestrial noise, there are two types, solar noise and cosmic noise. Man-made noise is a noise which is generated by human beings. Natural noise is a noise which is generated by nature. In atmospheric noise, which is because of atmosphere over the earth. Extraterrestrial noise is the noise which is generated by other than earth. In extraterrestrial noise, solar noise which is generated because of sun radiation. Cosmic noise is a noise because of the radiation generated by stars. And internal noise, thermal noise is because of resistor. Short noise is because of active components like transistor, diode. Transit time noise is because of the inequality of high frequencies and the transit time of the electrons. Man-made noise. It is a noise that is produced by mankind. It is also known as industrial noise. It is produced by automobiles, aircraft ignition circuits, electric motors, switching circuits and fluorescent lamps. Its frequency lies between 1 MHz to 500 MHz. Atmospheric noise is a noise that is produced by electrical disturbances such as lightning and thunderstorms. Lightning is a huge electric discharge between clouds or between earth and clouds. Extraterrestrial noise. Extraterrestrial noise comes from sources in space, which are again divided into solar noise. The primary source of solar noise is sun. Under steady condition, there is no constant noise radiation from the sun. This radiation of noise from the sun is due to the fact that the sun is a large body at very high temperature. The noise radiations produced by the sun vary with the time. The sun cycle repeats after every 11 years. During the peak of the cycle, there occurs tremendous interferences due to which communication at many frequencies becomes impracticable. Cosmic noise. The noise produced by the stars is termed as cosmic noise. It is also called as black body noise. This noise is distributed uniformly in the entire sky. It is more significant at high frequencies above VHF range. Internal noise. Internal noise is generated by either active device or passive device. Active devices are those diodes, semiconductor devices, transistors, FET, and passive components are resistors, inductors, and capacitors. Thermal noise. It is a noise generated in a resistor due to rapid and random motion of electrons. When current is flowing through the resistor, because of electrical energy applied through the resistor, the electrons will move here and there. Because of this, some noise is produced. This noise is also known as thermal agitation noise, white noise, or Johnson noise. Thermal noise is independent of frequency. Thermal noise power is represented by Pn, which is directly proportional to T and B, where T is the absolute temperature, B is the bandwidth. Short noise. Short noise is present in both vacuum tube and semiconductor devices. Short noise is because of passive device. Thermal noise is because of short noise is because of active devices. Thermal noise is because of passive devices. In vacuum tubes, it is generated due to random emission of electrons from cathode. That is short noise. In semiconductor device, then short noise is generated due to random diffusion of minority carriers across the junction. Short noise current is represented by small in is equal to under root of 2 EIP into B, where E is the charge of electron, IP is the direct diode current, B is the bandwidth. Transit time noise. The noise that occurs in transistors is known as transit time noise. In semiconductor, the transit time is the time taken by the carriers to cross the junction. The noise occurs at upper high frequency band and beyond, because at that the VHF signals are having lesser time period compared to the transit time of electrons as well as carriers. The performance factors for measuring noise there are three performance factors. One is signal to noise ratio, noise figure, and noise temperature. Because it is difficult to measure or quantify the noise, that is why there is a comparative parameters are taken. What is the amount of noise with respect to signal is measured by signal to noise ratio. Signal to noise ratio is very important to measure the performance of the noise. It is one of the most important parameters to be measured to evaluate performance of any communication system. It is defined as the ratio of signal power to the noise power at the same point. So for every system, there will be some main power, that is signal power, and because of noise some power is generated, that is noise power. SNR is equal to SNR signal power by noise power. SNR equal to PS by PN. If you see this formula, is another formula. This is another formula, signal power by noise power. Where PS is the signal power, PN is the noise power, VS is the signal voltage, VN is the noise voltage. Signal to noise ratio is a dimensionless quantity because the numerator is power and the denominator is also a power, and if you calculate the units watt by watt you will get 1. Hence SNR is dimensionless quantity. You can quantify SNR in decibels also for the 10 log base 10 PS by PN. The units for SNR is decibels. It's noise figure. Compared to SNR, noise figure is a good performance parameter that can evaluate the performance of a system. SNR is measured at only one point, whereas noise figure can quantify or evaluate the performance of noise at the output with respect to input of a system. It is defined as a ratio of signal to noise power at the input and output of a receiver or an amplifier. Mathematically, it is expressed as noise figure capital F equal to input SNR divided by output SNR. Input SNR is an SNR, input signal power by input noise power, and output SNR is given by output signal power by output noise power. Noise figure is also a dimensionless quantity. It is also measured, can also be measured in decibels, where noise figure in decibels equal to 10 log base 10, that is input SNR by output SNR. Noise figure is unity for ideal receivers. If it is 1, it is a good system. For a good communication, SNR should be as much as high. That means if SNR is high, the effect of noise is dominated by the signal, hence it produces more signal. It's noise temperature. This is another way of representing noise performance. The main advantage of noise temperature is that it is related to noise power. From the equation, total power equal to, if there are two sources of noise, total power, noise power is equal to P1 plus P2. If there are two thermal noises generated by two resistors, the first resistor will produce thermal noise of P1, the second resistor will produce thermal noise of P2. We know from the thermal noise power P equal to KTB, then PT is equal to KTTB, P1 is equal to KT1B and P2 is equal to KT2B. Then if you substitute these two formulas in total power, noise power, KTT is equal to KT1B plus KT2B. We simplify, TT is equal to T1 plus TT, where capital T is the total noise power, total absolute temperature is equal to absolute temperature of T1, absolute temperature of T2. So instead of measuring noise power, if you calculate the total absolute temperature, that can give you noise temperature. And there is a relation between equivalent noise temperature and noise figure is given by TE is equal to T0 into F minus 1, where T is known as equivalent noise temperature, T0 is absolute noise temperature, F is a noise figure, and from that capital F equal to 1 plus TE by T0. Generally, absolute temperature is equal to 290 degrees Kelvin. So this is about your noise and types of noises and noise performances, SNR, noise figure and noise temperature. Thank you.